Dose with your host, Dr. Farah Laurent. Today, I want to talk to you about why visibility is the new resume. And I'm speaking directly to my nursing audience. Whether you're a new nurse, a student nurse, or an experienced nurse, whether in education or in leadership, or a nurse entrepreneur, this message is for you. This episode is for you. Okay. So, for those who don't know me, my name is Dr. Farah Laurent. I've been a nurse for over 20 years. I've been featured in multiple media, such as Black Enterprise and also the Jennifer Hudson Show, for the work that I do helping new graduate nurses and guiding them to get six figures, landing their dream specialty, and also expanding the mindset and the view of all nurses to see what's truly possible in their career and in business. So, whether you're a nurse that wants to advance professionally in your career or start a business or grow your business, this is what I do. This is my expertise. Okay. And why should you listen to me? Because over the last just 5 years, I have really been intentional about building my personal brand and being visible. So let's get into what does she mean when she's talking about being visible, and why is being visible the new resume? Okay. So when I talk about being visible, I'm talking about being visible online, such as I'm doing now on all these social media platforms. Currently, I'm live on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. So shout out to everybody watching. And if you happen to be watching the replay, shout out to you as well. Drop any comments or questions that you guys have in the chat for me. Okay. And so back to visibility, what is it, right? So it's being visible on social media, on all the platforms or the platforms of your choice, particularly LinkedIn. If you are interested in growing in your career, LinkedIn is a must. Okay. We'll get into that in just a little bit. So, visibility on social media, visibility in terms of networking events, going outside, right? Like literally going to events, whether it's smaller regional events in your neighborhood or national events or global conferences and things like that. Okay. You need to start connecting with other people in your community. And it's not just in nursing. I also believe that you can connect with people in other industries as well. As I often go to business conferences, marketing events, and different things, because nursing needs to start learning from other industries so that we can actually get better as nurses in whatever role we decide to do. Okay, so visibility online, visibility on social media, and in person events. Okay, so that's what I want to talk about. I also want to talk about creating your digital footprint. What does that mean? When someone Googles you, if you put my name in Google or whatever search engine you're using, right? A lot of AI now is coming up. Simply type in Dr. Farah Laurent and you will see a plethora of information, right? You'll see that I've written articles, right? My own articles. I have a newsletter. I've been published in the American Journal of Nursing, so actual publications. I've been featured on multiple podcasts, such as Sigma International, my own podcast that I've started, and other people's podcasts. Okay. I've written my own book, right? Self published, right? Author. This is called Nurses Making Money Moves, a nurse's guide to starting a business. I wrote this book several years ago because nurses started coming to me asking me how I started my business as a nurse career coach, right? So, podcasting, writing articles, writing a book, and then speaking, right? Even though I was not really fond of public speaking in the beginning, however, as a educator and director of education, and director of nursing, I had to speak many times in front of large audiences and also um, had to do many presentations. So I started getting really comfortable with speaking in front of large crowds. I started enjoying it. And then when I started my business, I was like, I really have a message to share to other nurses. My past experiences, my challenges of not advancing in nursing as quickly as I should have, I want to start sharing those gems and messages to the younger generation and other nurses who are struggling because often we have the same struggles. Okay. So, literally, the background is I started as an emergency nurse. I was told by a clinical instructor that I should never go and be an emergency nurse and that it will never happen and that I should stick to med surge. Of course, I didn't listen to that. I pursued the emergency department. I got hired as a nursing student and then started my career in the ED. I did that for 5 years in Canada and then I left. I moved to New York City to pursue travel nursing. And I absolutely love travel nursing, but then I always just fell in love with education. I went back to school to get my master's in education. And still, even though despite having multiple degrees, a bunch of board certifications as an ER nurse, it was very difficult for me to advance into an educator role. There was a lot of issues with discrimination and favoritism and all the things. And I didn't know how to position myself for success. I didn't know how to manage my personal brand. In fact, I didn't even know I had a personal brand. So that's why it took me about 2 years until I actually landed a clinical instructor position at NYU School of Nursing. And then I was so determined to get into my dream role as the director of education. How did I get there? By consistency, being persistent, and I continued to network because I really believed in myself. Now, why am I sharing these stories? Because I speak to many nurses today that are still having these same struggles. So that's why I decided to become a nurse career coach, start a business to really help my younger self as a new nurse. So I developed a free training, happens every Thursday. It's coming up this Thursday at 1 p.m. If you want to learn how to get hired faster as a new nurse, how to make yourself more visible, how to proactively start applying so that you don't have to struggle to get interviews or struggle to even find your dream role, this is the webinar for you. How do you sign up? Simply go to newnursejob.com. You can go to that website. I'll put it up right here on LinkedIn. And you'll see it. Is it not popping up? Ooh, for some reason, it's not letting me show it. But anyways, it's newnursejob.com. I think it's showing up on Instagram and also on LinkedIn. I think potentially too on YouTube. Also, if you're on TikTok, simply just go to the link in my bio and you can sign up for this webinar. It's this Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. PST. What I do is I break down the top 5 reasons why new nurses are struggling to get their dream role and struggling in interviews. Okay, so join this free webinar. Please sign up now because once the spots fill up, that's it. You'll have to wait for the next one. Okay, so I developed that webinar, like I said, for new nurses, and I actually have a coaching program. And if you have an upcoming interview, perhaps, and you're like, I really want to land this job, but I'm not prepared for the interview, simply drop me a message on LinkedIn and put dream role. Okay. And then just shoot me a message and say, I have an upcoming interview and drop it on LinkedIn. Make sure that we're connected. You can find me on LinkedIn at Dr. Farah Laurent. Okay. So back to my point, right? About if you are a new nurse, an experienced nurse, whether you're in education, leadership, or entrepreneurship, visibility is so important and building a personal brand is very important. But let's stick to visibility, right? If you are a new nurse, one quick tip that I have for you is to be active on LinkedIn, right? If you don't have a LinkedIn profile, you are literally, I don't know what you're doing. Okay. So make sure if you're actively looking for a role, and this goes for everybody, whether you're a new nurse or not, you should be active on this platform, LinkedIn. It's the most professional platform. Ton of recruiters are on there and hiring managers. In fact, statistics show that 95% of recruiters will look you up on LinkedIn before they invite you for an interview. So clearly, LinkedIn is the place to be. And they don't pay me for this, but I literally could be like an ambassador for LinkedIn. So I didn't take LinkedIn seriously when I first started. I don't know when I joined, but I was never on the platform. Like once in a while, I would pop in, look around, and that was it. In fact, I did not even have a profile photo on LinkedIn. I was too afraid to like put a profile photo. And then I realized, what am I doing? It's a networking platform and it's a great way to meet other nurses. And I should definitely start taking it seriously. So, when I started my business almost 5 years ago as a nurse career coach, I got very intentional about showing up on LinkedIn consistently and starting to become visible. What did that mean for me? Literally, I put a photo up, right? A profile photo. Finally, I didn't have one. I started creating content, even though I was terrified. I didn't know what I was doing. I started creating content. I started writing written posts about my experiences, my struggles, my wins, all of it. I was very transparent, and I think people really connected with that. So I started showing more photos, and you don't have to tell your business. Like you could keep it just to your career, to nursing. I often created just mostly content about nursing, how to get jobs, interviews, and things like that. And then I started going live, such as I'm going live now. Um, one summer, I actually went live like 45 times straight every single day. Because when I started learning about business, marketing, and all the things, it makes perfect sense. As humans, we're very visual and we relate to people. We relate to other people's stories. We feel connected. We start building trust, right? So showing up on video and in this live stream, this is probably the closest thing to meeting someone in person. So literally, as I was showing up every week after week after week, talking about my expertise as a nurse career coach, as a educator, as a nurse leader, nurse executive, and as an entrepreneur talking about business, because I'm also the founder of Nurses Making Business Moves, which is a annual conference that I host. And I also do different events where I get entrepreneurs together or people interested in business to connect, to learn about financial literacy, how to start a business, to grow a business, all the things. I started realizing that people started noticing me, meaning I would sometimes go to conferences and they're like, hey, I know you. You're Dr. Farah Lorette. You show up on LinkedIn and you create content, and I feel like I already know you, right? So you see, the more you show up on LinkedIn, connect with other people, create content, share videos of yourself. So as a new nurse, you could maybe, if you've been inducted in, I don't know, Sigma, for example, talk about that journey. Don't just post static posts and photos. Also do a video of your induction. Talk about what it felt like, what it meant to you. Tell your stories. Okay. I often, when my new grad clients come to me, I often start telling them how to craft their why story, right? And I tell them how to kind of say it out there in the world, right? Because it's what helps them stand out in the interview process or you never know what one connection can lead to. So I tell them to start sharing their story. And then I help them craft a LinkedIn video that they often put out there, right? Um, so when they craft this LinkedIn video, it's about a minute or so. I instruct them on how to break it down, introduce themselves, and then tell a little bit about their story and what they like to do. And we put it out there. And often that LinkedIn video does very well, so much so that often employers will reach out to them and tell them to apply to specific roles that they're not even aware of sometimes. And many of my clients have gotten offers that way, where they got selected, one out of hundreds of clients hand selected for interviews. So this is why when I say visibility is the new resume, this is a clear example of this, okay? Many people are tired of just the regular emails, the regular text posts. So if you are able to be bold enough to be visible and to show your face and to be out there and do something different, right? Do things that are different than everybody else. That is what's going to help you stand out. Okay. And many times new nurses actually in the application process for large health systems, I see this a lot in California for the clients that I help there, especially for nurse residency programs, because they get so many applicants. What they'll do is sometimes they'll ask them a question to answer during the application process. And they will often ask for a video, and they don't know typically what the question is going to be, but they have to be prepared. And I typically prepare them for all different questions and scenarios. But what they're looking for is that you can articulate yourself with, articulate your value and explain yourself in a way that is like unforgettable and that you show up with confidence in the video. Because if you were too shy, you're unable to articulate your value, market yourself and promote yourself and speak with confidence, they will not move you on to the next round, to the interview stage. And I understand some of my clients have been super, super shy, but there's a way to still present yourself with confidence, even if you are shy. Okay. And for example, Dania was one of my clients. You could see her LinkedIn recommendation. She is from the New York City area. She really wanted to work for this large health system in oncology, but she was so shy and so soft-spoken and didn't really know how to present herself with confidence. So literally we worked together, and in less than 2 weeks of us working together, she landed her dream role at Northwell, one of the largest health systems here in oncology, which was her dream role. Okay. So this is what I say. Visibility is so important, and it's literally the new resume. It's better than your resume. Okay. Same thing when you are on Zoom calls, right? If you don't have an in-person interview and you're on a Zoom call, they want to see a little bit of personality and they want to see confidence. So if you show up already on LinkedIn posting videos, posting content, or even speaking on podcasts, when it's time for an interview, it will definitely help you along the way, because people will see that you're very comfortable talking about yourself and articulating your value. Okay, so that's for the new nurses out there. Again, if you are shy, you have difficulty with interviews, or you're not even getting to the interview stage, it could be an issue with your resume, your cover letter, and you're not leveraging LinkedIn enough. You're not showing up on LinkedIn. You don't know how to optimize it, and you're not sure how to be proactive in the job search. You don't know how to message recruiters and hiring managers, and you're not even just showing up in person to job fairs, different events. And when you do go to these events, you don't know how to network. So I highly encourage you to come to this free webinar this Thursday. It's at 1 p.m. Eastern or 10 a.m. PST for the people out in Cali. How do you sign up for this free webinar that I'm hosting? And it's a free training for senior nursing students or new nurses that are struggling to get interviews or struggling to get their dream role. Literally just go to newnursejob.com or go to the link in the bio. Mostly all of my platforms, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, the link is in the bio. Once you sign up, you'll get a booking link that'll give you like the Zoom in your email, and then you'll be good to go. You'll also get email reminders, and if you leave your phone number, you'll get text messages so that you don't miss this webinar. Okay, there have been people that have come to the webinar, just the webinar alone, and have landed their offer just from what they learned on this webinar. Okay. Also, I encourage you, if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please go and subscribe. It's The Nursing Dose with Farah. Once you click on it, you'll see the actual videos with all the thumbnails. And these videos are strictly for any senior nursing student or any new graduate nurse. And there's a ton of videos there. I just started that YouTube channel this January. Okay. So again, for any nurse out there who wants to unlock more opportunities, and let's just get to it, right? Many nurses, yes, you might get a good salary, but a lot of nurses are struggling financially because we don't get taught this in nursing school. And a lot of times it's a taboo thing. People don't want to talk about salaries or making more money, especially in the field that we're in nursing. It's almost like we're ashamed to talk about salaries and money, but a lot of us might have debt from school, and some of us might have 2 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet, especially if you're a single parent and you're trying to provide, right, for your family. So let's talk about it, right? One thing that most nurses don't do, and I wish I knew this sooner, is to negotiate your salary. I don't care if you're a brand new nurse or how many years of experience, or if you're a new nurse practitioner, a new director, anything. A lot of times in our heads, we're made to feel like, oh, you're new, so you can't negotiate your salary. No, 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 no. HR, human resources, expects you to negotiate your salary. And often most people don't, and you just take the first salary. And that's what I used to do. And it can really hurt your bottom line in terms of like income, right? The other thing is you need to realize that there are so many other opportunities besides just delivering care in terms of bedside, right? Many nurses think, oh, I'm just going to pick up overtime or get the second job or whatever. But many of you are actually giving away your intellectual property for free. What do I mean by that? Your intellectual property is the knowledge that you've acquired over the last years, whether it's nursing, whether it's from nursing school, past degrees, because some nurses are second career nurses, right? All of this intellectual property that you have, your expertise, your past experiences, that's your intellectual property. Many times, nurses are asked to consult. Some companies might say, hey, can I jump on an hour call with you? I have a couple questions on this and this and this. Or they'll say, hey, I'm a new healthcare company and we're designing, this app on this or this. We would like to get your insight on this. Guess what? That is you consulting. So if you were to open up your own business, whether it's an LLC, whatever it is, a business entity where you can be a consultant, instead of you giving away this information for free, you could literally get paid for it. Okay. One big growing field is, example, legal nurse consulting. So many nurses have opened up their businesses being a legal nurse consultant, and they are getting paid for their intellectual property. Okay, that's one example. Another one is coaching. So I'm a nurse career coach, and I help new nurses land their dream roles. And often they're getting up to anywhere from 140K a year to 200K a year. And they're not just getting any job, they're getting their preferred specialty in the ICU, the ED, labor and delivery, NICU, psych, you name it, at their preferred hospital. And I'm not talking about just any health system, some of the biggest health systems in the nation, both in the US and Canada. I'm talking places like NYU, which is the number one hospital where I used to work in the ED, right? Number one hospital in the nation. I recently helped a new grad secure an ICU position there. Also, Stanford. I have helped a few nurses get into Stanford and other big health systems, right? So that's what I do as a nurse career coach, right? And most recently, as I mentioned, right, nurses have been asking me, like, hey, how did you start speaking? Right? Because I get asked to speak at different events, conferences, panels, and I'm a keynote speaker as well. And you can get paid to be a speaker. Often, many nurses are asked to speak, and I understand if it's a nonprofit or, there's different cases, the nonprofit organizations may not have money to pay you, but often many people can pay you for your speaking. So I know there's a lot of like nurse educators, nurse leaders that would love to speak on stages and get paid, but they're not quite sure how to do it. And I meet a lot of nurses that say, yes, I would love to be a speaker and have like a signature talk on these 2 or 3 topics, right? And I ask them, like, well, have you spoken? Do you have a podcast? Do you show up on other people's podcasts? And they're like, no, I'm too shy. I don't want to do that. And I'm like, well, guess what? Remember we talked about it? Visibility is the new resume. If you want to be a speaker, right? And you're say pitching yourself to be a speaker for a potential conference or something like that, and then they look you up, right? They Google you. They don't see any content that you've created. They don't see any speaking engagements that you've done, whether it's panels or speaking on other events on stages, or you haven't even been on people's podcasts, right? So the other thing is, if you are not given the opportunity, I always say make the opportunity happen for yourself. Okay. So I've had, gratefully the pleasure of speaking at multiple conferences, panels, and things like that. But guess what? I also created my own event where I started speaking about entrepreneurship, personal branding, and visibility. I created my own conference. And I'm not saying you have to go and create your own conference. However, you can do little small events, work like a workshop for a day, half a day, where you're inviting people, a small group of people, so you can speak about your topic. Get a photographer, get a videographer to record that content professionally so that you now have something to show when they say, hey, can you show me what other speaking topics you've done and things like that, right? So that's exactly what I'm talking about when I say visibility can unlock opportunities. So even if you don't have a business, but you want to start building up your personal brand, I highly suggest that you become a subject matter expert in something that you love talking about. So for me, it's personal branding, entrepreneurship, specifically for nurses, and of course, career development and advancement and transition of practice. And of course, advocacy for new nurses going into the workforce. So those are some topics that I typically love to talk about. And that's what I talk about when I go on podcasts, my own podcast, and my own events. Okay. So let me know if you guys have any questions. Drop them in the chat. I know I said a lot, but if you want to start unlocking opportunities in your own career and your business and get paid opportunities, visibility is the way to go. And again, in summary, how do you become more visible? Literally start creating content on social media, okay, in terms of what you want your topics to be, you're like your subject matter expert on. Start talking about those things, right? Show up on other people's podcasts and start telling your story. Create your own podcast if you want. Create your own mini events. Okay. You can also write a book if you think there's something out there like a gap in the marketplace and maybe a certain audience needs your book. Again, remember I said I wrote my own book about nurses making money moves because there aren't much books or much content that talks about nurses making money because a lot of it is taboo. We don't want to talk about it because we're a profession of service. But I'm like, no, let's talk about money. Let's talk about wealth because nurses often are struggling financially because they haven't learned the wealth building aspect, how to negotiate their salary and these types of things, and how to even earn more income without having to deliver direct patient care. You can do that through coaching, through consulting. There's so many different ways. We talked about even speaking, getting paid speaking gigs, right? So that's another way is writing articles or writing a book to start building that digital footprint and also start getting your name out there, right? Okay, you're welcome. Jamie says, thank you, Dr. Fair. This information is very informational. Appreciate you. Yeah, let me know, Jamie, what you are interested in. You know, what did I talk about really struck with you? Is it the career piece? Is it the making more money or different sources of income, such as speaking or writing a book? Is it personal branding? Let me know in the chat. I would love to know. And those on TikTok as well. What's up, Rachel? I don't know if you're still on TikTok. And I see a lot of other people that are still on. Let me know if you guys have any other questions, comments. And I also invite you to save the date for anybody that is interested in starting their own business or growing their business. I'm super excited to announce that my next conference / mastermind will be March 5th and 6th, 2027. So I'll do like an actual post about it, a whole campaign. You guys will see more content surrounding that. But I'm super excited and I'm going to announce the official city that it's going to be in. Those that attended the first and the second conference already got an email and they know where it's going to happen. I also had dropped a poll on LinkedIn and I had named a couple cities and I asked people to vote. And we have a winner, a winning city of where it's going to be. So super excited to announce that. I'll probably be announcing it sometime this week or next week. And for those who have attended my conference, if you happen to be watching this replay or you're watching now, check your email because that's where I actually dropped the city of where it's going to be next year. Again, March 5th and 6th. And it's called Nurses Making Business Moves. And you'll also get an email for those who attended the last one with the early bird special. You guys will have exclusive first dibs on getting tickets. And then I will release it out to the public. If you are interested and you're watching one of these social media platforms, you're like, I want to come to this next conference, like drop the T, let me know the details. Direct message me on LinkedIn if you are interested. Okay. And I will definitely send you all the information as soon as I, drop all the tea on social. And then I'll give you guys the specific early bird link. Okay, so Jamie says just making self more visible. Always try to fly under the radar, got to make a change and have been trying to do that. And you just reinforce that change. Okay, awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, Jamie, for sharing. Yeah, that's how I used to be in the ER. Often we're taught as nurses, like, work hard, keep your head down. Don't be, all showing off or bragging about yourself. And I'm like, no, it's not bragging. It's simply stating facts. If you have the degrees to back it up, the certifications to back it up, why not? Like, this is what will get you promoted, will get you noticed, right? You need to be visible. You need to be in particular rooms. Um, Literally, people will speak your name in other rooms for opportunities the more visible you are, the more you show up. And I'm not saying you have to be at every single event, but I'm just saying be very strategic about the rooms you're in, who you hang out with, and make sure that it's a positive group of people. Recently, again, I didn't share, but I'm sure some of you saw on social, I was at a business mastermind. Obviously, you guys know I'm a nurse entrepreneur and, speaker, all that. I got to meet one of my mentors and business coaches in this mastermind in Brooklyn. And also, she had a premiere, the Rachel Rogers show in New York City. So it was not easy to get to. Had to make a lot of arrangements and, you know, a lot of different things went into it, having kids and being married. And my husband is very supportive and, really trying to support this whole business thing because it's tough being in business and an entrepreneur. But basically, I got to go. And this was really my dream to finally get to meet her and be in this community with other entrepreneurs and not just nurses, but entrepreneurs doing different things. And I applied to speak at that event. They wanted a couple of speakers to talk about their journey in business. And I got selected. Me and another masterminder got selected. So not only did I go to the event, but I made sure I was visible in terms of being on stage, telling my story so that other people could hear it too. And again, that makes you top of mind. So now anybody in that room that maybe knows a new nurse or a nurse that wants to advance in their career or a nurse that is interested in starting a business, they might be like, hey, like, go to Dr. Farah Laurent because she's a nurse career coach. She helps new nurses land their dream role, and she's helped over 200 nurses and she knows how to do it, right? Or they might say, hey, she helps nurses specifically with business coaching because she understands the nursing brain, how it works, and she talks nursing talk, right? So who else would you go to if you needed a business coach who was a nurse? They would point me out, right? So even though sometimes it takes a lot of courage to get on stage because we didn't have a ton of time to prepare, but it's putting yourself out there even despite having a little bit of nervousness or a little bit of fear. Because as I mentioned, visibility starts unlocking so many opportunities, right? So you got to get noticed. And that's the only way to elevate yourself, right? I talked about that even in my, they called it a Schmilly sermon, right? I talked about it in there that if you want to elevate yourself in your career or elevate yourself in business, you have to do what other people are not willing to do. Elevation requires separation. So sometimes people will stop being your friends. They'll, if you want to stay focused on your goals, I'm not saying you can't have friends, but be mindful of the circles that you are surrounding yourself and being in the right rooms because you want to be motivated to do more to reach your goals, reach that vision, and make that impact. Okay. And that's how you're going to do it is by being more visible. Right. And it's okay to talk about wealth building, generating more income, having different sources of income. Because I didn't share this earlier, but I shared it in my Schmilly sermon and in that talk that I did. Many of us are getting laid off, even in nursing, and we don't talk about it enough. And I was laid off 3 times in the last 5 years in high leadership positions, even though I transformed the program, I did everything and went above and beyond, had a doctorate, all that stuff. But some of these organizations really don't care because it's a business. So building a personal brand and being visible is truly foundational to success because you can pivot into different ways if you do have a business and you can generate your own income. And that is pretty powerful. And as nurses, there are so many things that we can do. And a lot of our skills are very transferable to starting a business. And I was talking to a colleague earlier, shout out to Dr. Kimberly Madison. She also enjoys talking about business and wealth building and nursing. And she spoke at my last conference as well. And we were talking about AI and events and things like that, and like coming back to human connection and those types of things. And I was just telling her how nurses need to start reframing their thinking because as a nurse, you do have a personal brand. As a nurse, you are the business, you are the brand, you are the asset, and you do have intellectual property that you can have multiple sources of income. Stop just being boxed into the traditional thinking of just one bedside role. And again, there's nothing wrong with bedside nursing, but I want new nurses, nursing students to start expanding their vision on what nursing is. And so many different opportunities are out there. Okay. So again, that's it for me today. If you guys have any questions, any comments, drop them in the chat, even if you're watching the replay. Don't miss out on this webinar for new nurses, newnursejob.com. Follow me on all the platforms. The one that I most will respond to you if you have a question is on LinkedIn. So connect with me on LinkedIn. On YouTube, if you're a new nurse, definitely follow me at The Nursing Dose with Farah. And please subscribe, tell your friends, tell your whole cohort. And if you have an upcoming interview, just direct message me on LinkedIn. For any nurse that wants to get promoted, get some career advancement, feel free to message me on LinkedIn. And if you are a nurse that wants to start or grow your business or learn about how to become a speaker, how to create multiple sources of an income and potentially being a coach or a consultant, direct message me. Okay. And if you want to learn how to get my book, simply just go to Go to nursefarah.com. That's where the book is. nursefarah.com. The newnursejob.com is for the webinar. Okay. I'll drop all the links below. And again, thank you for watching. That's it for me today. All right. Take care. Bye.